What if the freedom you say you want is the barrier you're actually building? You scroll through endless feeds of people claiming their independence, declaring their authenticity, shouting about breaking free from constraints. Everyone wants freedom, right? Yet here's what haunts the shadows of that desire. When true freedom knocks, most of us slam it shut and pretend we never heard the sound. This isn't about political freedom or social movements. This cuts deeper. We're talking about the kind of freedom that tears down every excuse, every safety net, every comfortable story you tell yourself about why your life looks the way it does. Friedrich Nietzsche understood something that makes most people uncomfortable. The reason freedom scares us runs deeper than we dare admit. He saw through our carefully constructed lies about what we actually want. Because here's the thing, we don't really want freedom. We want the feeling of freedom without the crushing weight that comes with it. Think about your daily routine. How many choices did you actually make today compared to how many times you simply followed the path already laid out for you? Your alarm dictates when you wake up. Society tells you what success looks like. Your family whispers expectations into your ear. Your friends shape what you think is cool or acceptable. And somewhere in the middle of all that noise, you convince yourself you're living freely. But what happens when all those voices go silent? What happens when nobody tells you what to do, who to be, or how to live? What happens when you're left alone with the terrifying reality that every single thing about your existence is your choice and your responsibility? This is where Nietzsche's dark truth of freedom begins to reveal itself. Real freedom isn't liberation from constraints. It's the horrifying realization that you are the constraint. You are the prison guard and the prisoner, the judge and the defendant, the author of your story and the one who has to live every page of it. The psychological fear of choice isn't just about picking between vanilla and chocolate. It's about staring into the abyss of infinite possibility and realizing that whatever you choose, you can never undo it. Every door you walk through closes 10 others forever. Every identity you embrace kills off the versions of yourself you'll never become. We spend our lives building elaborate systems to protect us from this truth. We create routines, follow traditions, join groups, adopt belief systems, anything to avoid the bone-deep terror of standing alone with our choices. We mistake this elaborate dance of avoidance for living, but it's actually a sophisticated form of hiding. The most unsettling part? Deep down, you know this. You feel the weight of unexpressed possibilities pressing against your chest. You sense the gap between who you could be and who you allow yourself to become. And instead of facing that gap, you fill it with distractions, addictions, and the comfortable numbness of going through the motions. Nietzsche called this the herd mentality, but it's more than just following the crowd. It's the active choice to remain unconscious because consciousness demands too much from us. Being awake means being responsible. Being responsible means accepting that your life is exactly what you've made it. Society offers you a deal. Trade your authentic power for security, your genuine voice for acceptance, your unique path for the proven formula. Most people take that deal without even reading the fine print. They mistake conformity for peace and wonder why they feel so empty. If you're ready to discover why this emptiness exists, why freedom feels more like a threat than a promise, then you need to understand what true choice actually costs. Subscribe to join others brave enough to question everything they thought they knew about living. The weight of choice isn't something they teach you in school, but it's the most important lesson you'll ever learn. Picture yourself standing in a supermarket cereal aisle. Hundreds of boxes stare back at you. Organic, gluten-free, high fiber, kids' favorites, granola clusters, ancient grains. A simple breakfast choice becomes a 10-minute ordeal. Your brain starts to fog. Decision fatigue kicks in. You grab whatever's closest and escape. Now multiply that feeling by every significant decision in your life. Career paths, relationships, where to live, how to spend your time, what values to hold, which dreams to pursue. This is what existential freedom and responsibility actually looks like, not the romantic notion of endless possibility, but the crushing reality of endless accountability. Psychologists have a name for this: choice overload. When faced with too many options, people become paralyzed, stressed, and ultimately less satisfied with whatever they eventually choose. But here's what the research doesn't capture. The deeper terror isn't about making the wrong choice. It's about discovering that there is no right choice, only choices and their consequences. When you were a child, Adults made decisions for you. School told you which subjects to study and when. Parents decided your bedtime, your friends, your activities. Even rebellion felt simple because you knew exactly what you were rebelling against. The boundaries were clear, solid, reassuring. But somewhere along the way, those boundaries dissolved. You gained the power to shape your own existence, and with it came a weight that no one warned you about. Suddenly, you're not just choosing what to eat for breakfast. You're choosing who to become, moment by moment, decision by decision. This is why so many people feel lost in their 20s and 30s. It's not immaturity or confusion. It's the natural human response to being handed the keys to their own existence without a manual. Freedom comes with burden, and that burden is the knowledge that you are personally responsible for how your life unfolds. Think about the last time you made a major life decision. Really think about it. How long did you agonize? How many people did you consult? How many pros and cons lists did you make? How many times did you change your mind? That anxiety wasn't about the decision itself. It was about accepting that whatever happened next would be on you. Nietzsche philosophy explained this phenomenon with brutal clarity. When you realize you're free, you also realize you're alone. No cosmic force is guiding your choices. No predetermined destiny is unfolding. No authority figure will swoop in to tell you what's best. Just you, standing at an intersection of infinite paths, knowing that whichever one you choose will become your reality. The psychological fear of choice runs so deep that we've built entire industries around avoiding it. We hire life coaches to tell us what we should want. We follow influencers who model how we should live. We join movements that give us ready-made identities and belief systems. We outsource our choices to algorithms that predict what we're like based on what others like us have chosen. But here's the cruel irony. Even choosing to avoid choice is itself a choice. Even deciding to let others decide for you is a decision you made. There's no escape from the fundamental fact of human existence. You are choosing your life, whether you acknowledge it or not. This realization can break people. When you truly understand that your happiness, your relationships, your success, your meaning, all of it depends on choices you make, the weight can feel unbearable. Some people crack under this pressure. They develop analysis paralysis, spending so much energy trying to make the perfect choice that they never actually choose anything meaningful. Others go the opposite direction. They make impulsive decisions just to escape the anxiety of deliberation. They jump into relationships, careers, or lifestyles without thinking because thinking feels too dangerous. The fear of making the wrong choice drives them to make rapid choices, often with devastating consequences. But there's a third group, the ones who learn to dance with uncertainty. They accept that overcoming the fear of choice isn't about eliminating the weight, but learning to carry it gracefully. They understand that the burden of choice is the price of being human, and they decide that price is worth paying. These people discover something remarkable. The same freedom that terrifies others becomes their source of power. They stop waiting for permission to live their lives. They stop seeking guarantees that don't exist. They make choices, own the consequences, and adjust course when necessary. This doesn't mean they're always confident or that choosing becomes easy. It means they've made peace with the fundamental uncertainty of existence. They've learned that the discomfort of choice is temporary, but the regret of not choosing can last a lifetime. What separates those who thrive in freedom from those who crumble under its weight? They understand that choices don't have to be perfect, they just have to be yours. They recognize that taking responsibility for your life isn't a burden to bear but a power to wield. The question isn't whether you'll face the weight of choice. You already are, every single day. The question is whether you'll let that weight crush you or teach you to become stronger. Walk into any office building during rush hour. Watch the stream of people flowing through identical corridors, wearing similar clothes, carrying similar bags, checking similar phones. They move like a river of conformity, each person convinced they're living their own unique life while following the exact same current as everyone around them. This isn't an accident. It's not laziness or lack of imagination. It's a carefully constructed defense mechanism against the terror of individual responsibility. Society offers you something invaluable, a set of pre-approved choices that protect you from the anxiety of having to create your own meaning. You're handed a script for how to live. Go to school, get good grades, choose a respectable career, find a partner, buy a house, have kids, save for retirement, die peacefully. The script varies depending on your culture, class, and circumstances, but the underlying promise remains the same: follow these steps and you'll be okay. More importantly, if things go wrong, it won't be entirely your fault. This pattern reveals something deeper and more disturbing. Most people don't want to think for themselves. They want to belong to something larger that will do the thinking for them. Consider how you make moral decisions. Do you reason through each situation from first principles, or do you rely on what your family taught you, what your religion preaches, what your political party endorses, what your social group considers acceptable? Most of us operate on inherited values without ever questioning where they came from or whether they actually serve our lives. This isn't necessarily wrong. Civilization depends on shared values and social cooperation. But it becomes problematic when you mistake these borrowed beliefs for your own authentic thinking. When you confuse following the herd with making conscious choices. The comfort of change reveals itself in how we react to people who break the mold. Deep down, we both admire and resent those who choose differently. We call them brave while secretly questioning their judgment. We celebrate their authenticity while maintaining a safe distance from their choices. Their freedom reminds us of our own self-imposed limitations, and that reflection can be unbearable. Think about someone in your life who made an unconventional choice, left a stable career to pursue art, moved to a foreign country alone, chose not to have children, started a business that seemed crazy to everyone else. How did people react? Was there genuine support, or was there an undercurrent of doubt, criticism, and attempts to talk them out of it? The crowd protects us from blame, but it also erases individuality. When you make choices based on what others expect rather than what you genuinely want, you avoid the risk of being wrong, but you also sacrifice the possibility of being authentically right. You trade your unique perspective for the safety of group approval. Social media has amplified this dynamic to an unprecedented degree. We perform our lives for invisible audiences, making choices based on what will generate the most likes, comments, and shares. We curate our personalities to match trending hashtags and viral content. The herd has gone digital, but its power over us has only grown stronger. The irony runs deeper than you might think. We live in an age with more individual freedom than any generation in human history. You can choose your career, your partners, your beliefs, your lifestyle, your identity. Yet despite all these options, many people report feeling more trapped and confused than ever before. Because with all these choices comes the terrifying responsibility to choose well. And most of us haven't been taught how to navigate that responsibility. We've been taught how to follow rules, meet expectations, and fit in, not how to create our own path through uncharted territory. Society and individual constraint work hand in hand in ways we rarely recognize. The same culture that tells you to be yourself also provides subtle but powerful signals about what version of yourself is acceptable. You're free to choose, as long as you choose from the approved menu of options. This creates a strange form of freedom. You have choices, but they're bounded by invisible walls of social expectation. You can be creative, but not too weird. You can be successful, but not in ways that make others uncomfortable. You can be different, but only in acceptable ways. The most insidious part is how we internalize these constraints until they feel like our own preferences. We tell ourselves we don't want certain things that we've never actually tried. We dismiss possibilities as unrealistic before we've seriously explored them. We limit our dreams to what others have already achieved or approved of. Breaking free from collective thinking doesn't mean rejecting all social norms or traditions. It means developing the capacity to distinguish between values that genuinely serve your life and values you've absorbed without conscious examination. It means learning to trust your own judgment even when it conflicts with popular opinion. The comfort of change is real, and there's no shame in acknowledging its appeal. But there comes a moment in every authentic life when you must choose. Will you remain safely bound by other people's expectations, or will you risk the terrifying freedom of becoming who you actually are? That choice will determine whether you live your own life or spend your existence as an actor in someone else's play. There's a moment that comes to everyone, usually in the quiet hours when distractions fade and pretense drops away. You're lying in bed, staring at the ceiling, or walking alone at night, or sitting in traffic, and suddenly the bottom falls out of everything you thought you knew about existence. The noise stops. The familiar patterns dissolve. And you're left face to face with a question that has no comfortable answer. What if none of this means anything? This is the moment of staring into the abyss, not a dramatic philosophical exercise, but a visceral encounter with the raw fact of existence. No script, no director, no guarantee that any of it adds up to something meaningful. Just you, suspended in space and time, responsible for creating significance in a universe that offers no instructions. The experience hits different people in different ways. For some, it's a gradual awakening, a slow recognition that the stories they were told about life's purpose might be elaborate fictions designed to make existence bearable. For others, it arrives like a lightning strike, sudden, searing, impossible to ignore, a moment of profound disillusionment that strips away the comfortable illusions in one devastating instant. What makes this confrontation so terrifying isn't the absence of meaning itself, it's the recognition that you are responsible for creating any meaning your life will have. There's no cosmic authority handing out purpose like job assignments. No divine plan unfolding that will make everything clear in retrospect. No final destination that will justify all the struggle and confusion along the way. Inner conflict and freedom become inseparable at this point. Part of you craves the certainty of believing in something larger than yourself. Another part knows that any meaning you didn't create personally will feel hollow, borrowed, inauthentic. You're caught between the terror of meaninglessness and the exhaustion of having to manufacture purpose from scratch. This is why so many people retreat into fundamentalism of various kinds: religious, political, philosophical, even scientific. Fundamentalism offers the seductive promise of absolute truth, final answers, unquestionable authority. It provides relief from the burden of having to figure things out for yourself. But that relief comes at the cost of your authentic engagement with reality. The abyss doesn't discriminate. It swallows the religious and the atheist, the successful and the struggling, the young and the old. It's not about having enough money or love or achievement in your life. It's about recognizing that no external accomplishment can fill the fundamental uncertainty at the heart of human existence. Some people spend their entire lives running from this recognition. They stay so busy, so distracted, so surrounded by noise and activity that they never have to sit alone with the silence. They fill every moment with entertainment, work, social obligations, anything that prevents them from encountering the vast emptiness that lurks beneath the surface of daily routine. But avoidance has its own cost. When you refuse to face the abyss, you also close yourself off from the profound freedom that comes with accepting it. You remain dependent on external sources of meaning that can be taken away from you at any moment. Your sense of purpose becomes fragile because it's built on foundations you didn't lay yourself. Cultural fear of independence stems partly from this existential confrontation. Independence doesn't just mean paying your own bills or making your own decisions. It means taking full responsibility for the meaning and direction of your existence. It means accepting that nobody else can live your life for you or tell you definitively what it should look like. The people who learn to dance with the abyss discover something unexpected. The same void that initially terrifies can become a source of incredible liberation. When you accept that there's no predetermined script for your life, you realize that you're free to write your own. When you stop waiting for someone else to hand you meaning, you discover your power to create it. This doesn't happen overnight, and it's not a one-time realization. Staring into the abyss is an ongoing practice, a repeated choice to face reality without the comfort of comforting illusions. Some days you'll feel strong and clear about your self-created purpose. Other days you'll feel lost and question everything again. Both experiences are part of the human condition. The key insight that separates those who grow from this encounter from those who are paralyzed by it: the abyss isn't empty, it's full of potential. What looks like nothingness is actually infinite possibility waiting for you to shape it into something meaningful. The terror you feel isn't the universe rejecting you. It's the universe inviting you to become a creator rather than just a consumer of pre-made meaning. Freedom and nothingness are inseparable because freedom only exists in the space where predetermined answers don't. If your life's purpose were handed to you at birth, you wouldn't be free, you'd be following a program. The fact that you have to create your own meaning is what makes that meaning genuinely yours. This realization changes everything about how you approach existence. Instead of asking, "What am I supposed to do?" you start asking, "What do I want to create?" Instead of seeking the right answer, you start crafting answers that feel authentically yours. Here's the revelation that will haunt you long after these words end. The people who truly understand freedom don't try to escape its terror, they transform that terror into their greatest source of power. They become dangerous, not to others, but to the systems of control that keep most people trapped in comfortable mediocrity. You become dangerous the moment you stop asking for permission to live your life. Dangerous when you realize that every authority figure, every social norm, every should and must that governs your choices is ultimately optional. Dangerous when you discover that the gap between who you are and who you could become is filled only by your own courage or cowardice. This isn't about rebellion for its own sake or rejecting everything society offers. It's about reaching a level of inner authority where you can consciously choose what serves your authentic development and what doesn't. It's about becoming so grounded in your own judgment that external pressures lose their power to control your direction. The philosophical truth is that choosing self-determination over conformity isn't just a debate, it's the defining choice of human existence. Most people will choose conformity because it feels safer, easier, more predictable. But a few will choose the harder path of becoming who they actually are, regardless of what others think or expect. The transformation happens gradually, then all at once. You start questioning assumptions you've never examined. You begin making choices based on your own values rather than inherited ones. You stop seeking approval for decisions that are fundamentally yours to make. You develop what could be called the will to power, not power over others, but power over your own existence. This process is messy and non-linear. You'll make mistakes, face criticism, experience doubt and loneliness. People who are comfortable with your previous version may resist your growth. Some relationships will strain or break. The price of authenticity includes losing some connections that were based on false versions of yourself. But something else happens that makes all the struggle worthwhile. You start to feel alive in a way you never imagined possible. When you stop performing someone else's idea of who you should be, energy that was trapped in pretense gets released for actual living. Decisions become clearer because they're based on your genuine preferences rather than complex calculations about what others expect. You discover that the scariest freedom is also the most alive. The same uncertainty that once paralyzed you becomes fuel for creativity and growth. The absence of predetermined meaning transforms from curse to gift. It means you get to participate in creating the meaning of your existence. This is what overcoming fear of freedom actually looks like, not the elimination of fear, but the willingness to act despite fear. Not the guarantee of making perfect choices, but the commitment to making your own choices and learning from whatever consequences arise. Not the comfort of knowing you're doing everything right, but the satisfaction of knowing you're doing everything authentically. The people who master this transformation become quietly revolutionary. They don't need to overthrow systems or convert others to their way of thinking. Their mere existence challenges the assumption that everyone must follow the same path. They prove by example that it's possible to create a meaningful life from the ground up. You can spot them in any crowd. They have a quality of presence that stands out, not because they're trying to be different, but because they're comfortable being themselves. They make decisions that surprise people because they're based on internal logic rather than social programming. They're simultaneously more independent and more genuinely connected to others. Here's the final twist in this story. Once you truly embrace your freedom to create your own meaning and direction, you often find yourself naturally contributing to something larger than yourself. But now it's by choice rather than obligation. You serve others from overflow rather than depletion. Your authentic self-expression becomes a gift to the world rather than a burden to bear. The ultimate irony of human existence: the more fully you become yourself, the more you have to offer everyone else. The more courageously you face your own fears and limitations, the more you can help others navigate theirs. The more honestly you live your truth, the more permission you give others to discover and live their own. This is why freedom scares us more than we admit, not because it leads to chaos and selfishness, but because it leads to a level of personal responsibility that most people aren't prepared to handle. It demands that you become the author of your own existence, the creator of your own values, the architect of your own meaning. But for those who accept this challenge, who learn to dance with uncertainty and create meaning from emptiness, who transform the terror of freedom into the joy of authentic living, for those people, life becomes an ongoing masterpiece rather than a paint-by-numbers kit. The question that remains isn't whether you have the freedom to create your own path. You do. The question is whether you have the courage to walk it. Will you remain safely imprisoned by other people's expectations, Or will you risk the terrifying, exhilarating adventure of becoming who you actually are? The choice is yours. It always has been. And that, perhaps, is the most frightening and liberating truth of all. What's your relationship with the freedom you claim to want? Share in the comments below. Your authentic voice might be exactly what someone else needs to hear to begin their own journey toward dangerous authenticity.